Hello, my name is Mercedes Wharton.
Where'd you get the name Mercedes?
Well, my aunt named me Mercedes. She knew some lady, and so she told my mother to name me Mercedes. But that's really my second name. My first name is really Kate, and I was named after my grandmother on my mother's side. I was born in Virginia, and my both grandparents were landowners. They bought property about in the 1800s, right after the Civil War, or before the Civil War. And one owned about 300 acres plus, another one owned about 200 acres plus. And on my father's side, we have still all the property. And today we mostly grow soybeans and corn. We rent it out. But many years ago, we did mostly tomatoes and other things, yams, and we used to sell it on to the marketing people. And then a lot of people that once we did sell it, on the market, then neighbors would come in and they were allowed to take whatever that they needed. And then back in my grandparents' days, they had horses and cows and pigs and chickens, and it was, a lot of farming that was, done. And on my grandfather's side and mother's side, they saved their money up, and that's how they, bought the farms back in the 1800s.
You have obviously done some family history, so you know.
Well, because the land still existed while I was growing up, I really didn't have to do the history because those are the properties that I actually visited. So, and the properties are still around. So I really never had to really research it because it was there. But what happened, I didn't stay in Virginia that long. By the time I was 2, I came up to live with an aunt and uncle because New York was more progressive as far as education.
Now let me ask you before you take us there. You were born in Virginia. You spent the first 2 years.
Not quite even the first 2.
Not the first quite, but was it on the farm or was it out in this area?
Well, then my mother, we went on to a different property that we owned, and she was a school teacher, and my father, he owned a business. And then
what kind of business did he own?
A store in Virginia. And then after that, I'm an only child. So then I came up here to live with an aunt and uncle after my parents got a divorce. And then I was raised basically in Queens, good old Queens.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And, all right. Now, your name, you were named after someone that was known by your mother, I guess.
Kate, which is my name that I never go by. Nobody even knows me by Kate. I was named after my grandmother.
Right, your maternal grandmother.
Right.
But the Mercedes that everyone knows you as
was given to me by an aunt on my father's side who knew someone and she liked the name. Well, really, the name, I don't mind it too much, but I don't like to be called Mercedes, which most people call me. I like it either Mercedes, which my family calls me, or Mercedes.
Well, thank you for correcting that. That's important.
And one of the things that when I'm in Virginia, no one ever calls me Mercedes. They call me by my nickname, which is Puddin', which I like.
Right.
Yeah.
Who gave you that first?
I don't know, but they call me Puddin'. I kind of like that name, but nobody ever calls me Puddin' now.
Now, what's your present family situation?
Present family situation. I live in Huntington, and I moved there when I was about 13. Before that, I grew up in Queens, and I went to elementary school and also junior high. And it's around the same area that Ithiel Lloyd and Jose Suarez grew up, not too far.
What part of Queens was that?
I grew up in South Jamaica. And I stayed there I started high school. I started high school young. I was in 10th grade by the time I was 14.
Ooh, what What schools did you go to in South?
I went to PS 116, PS 140, and junior high PS 40.
Okay. And the high school?
That's when I came out. Then I went to Walt Whitman, and I was in 10th grade. So I did 10th, 11th, and 12th grade out in Huntington.
So you still in Huntington?
Still in Huntington.
Same place?
Same place. And took a big adjustment because when you grow up in the city, you're so used to going here, going there on your own. Then you come out to Huntington, and then you have to wait for a little yellow school bus to pick you up. And I said, gee whiz. And then there's no transportation, and you couldn't get around to see your friends. I said, gee, this is like prison. But I guess right now, I guess you can finally adjust to it, but it really hasn't changed much. Besides building more houses, the younger people still got to wait for people to take them places.
Wasn't it more quiet out here than it had been in Queens?
Oh yeah, but I like hustle and bustle. That's what I like about Queens. And plus, one thing I like about Queens, you can tell your parents you're going one place and you can go another place. Once you moved out here, they had to take you, so wherever you told them you were going, you had to go. But one thing I liked about Queens, you had more freedom as a child. And then when I came out here to high school, I said, gosh, this is terrible. And it wasn't that built up. So all your friends lived miles and miles away. And my parents weren't used to doing the carpool thing because it was new to them. When you grow up in the city, people, you get on a bus, you get on the subway, that's the way you travel. As far as, doing these carpools and getting everybody together, they weren't used to it. I wasn't used to it. We said, gosh, why do we move out here? But they bought the property in Huntington back in the 20s. And so they had some friends. And when Jamaica started to get a little bit rougher, we decided to, I guess, move out here. But in Queens, my father did some farming. There was some city property, and he would take the city property instead of letting it grow up in weeds. He planted all different types of vegetables, and people never bothered. Then at the end, they started stealing his stuff, and we knew it was time to go.
Well, I'm curious about what year he was doing this kind of thing. What decade was it?
He did a lot of farming that was his hobby, because he was a postman, in the 30s and 40s.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you say you did?
And 50s. What, 40s, 30s, 40s and 50s.
Because later that became quite a big thing for other people to do. So he was one of the pioneers in using city property.
Yeah, I guess so. But it made the neighborhood look so pretty. Right now, if you go back, it's a school there now. So that's the new junior high. And where I went to junior high is now the elementary school. So things are, changing a little bit. But I go back and visit everybody.
When you lived in Queens, all of your friends were on the block or in the neighborhood. So you had close proximity to
everybody.
Social contact.
Yeah. And I used to walk to my junior high school. Yes. And most of the people had free lunch, so they ate in the school. But I wasn't eligible for free lunch, so my punishment was I had to go home every day to eat lunch. Good thing I had parents who had the time to give me, lunch. Otherwise, I would have starved to death. So in the winter, and the summer, and the rain, I had to walk 4 blocks home to eat my lunch and then go back to school. But it wasn't too bad because then, sometimes, when I was going to school, sometimes I was restless. And so I knew that my teachers would keep me after school during my lunch period if I couldn't pay attention. So I made sure that I didn't do that too often.
Who is living with you now in Huntington?
Oh, I live in the house by myself right now.
You live in a house by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Were there ever any marriages in your life, or have you?
One, but it didn't last that long.
Okay. I want to know if the family contact that you once had with a lot of people. Does that continue? Are there many family members still around that you see?
Oh yeah, I go down to Virginia about 3 or 4 times a year because there's always business stuff that I always have to check into.
Okay.
And yeah.
Now it sounds like you come from a family where farming was a tradition. Were there any other particular interests or talents or besides now that you're a teacher?
Other
educators?
Well, my mother was a teacher, and a couple of my aunts were teachers, and we have principals in our family and guidance counselors. So really, I really had not much of a choice but to go into teaching. But oddly enough, most of the younger generation, their parents told them if they go into teaching, they're not paying for it because they want them to go into other fields. And then in our family, we also own 2 funeral homes. Well, one my cousin does. He owns 2 funeral homes.
Would that be out here? Or?
No, in Virginia.
In Virginia.
But everybody kind of went into an uncle. He owned a couple of stores, where people brought groceries and made sandwiches and stuff like that. But always it was education and business that the family mostly did.
Mercedes, when you think back, what are some of the earliest memories you had as a child?
Earliest memories I had as a child. Let's see, what age? Like junior high?
As early as you can.
Oh, okay.
Take something.
Junior high, I guess. I remember further back than that, but junior high, I remember walking, and we always used to gather at the local candy store and talk before we go into school. And of course, my parents would never want me to gather at a local candy store, but that's what everybody did. And I never forget one day, my father, I don't know, he was taking me to Girl Scouts. So he stops in and he talks to the guy, and he says, "Oh, I know your daughter. She comes to in my candy store every day before school." I said, "No, not me. It has to be somebody that looks like me. I never do that. Pop, you know that." But yeah, he said, "She comes in here every day." I said, "Oh, God." I said, "Pop, you know everybody." Gee whiz. But, back then, everybody always stopped to the local store and talked, and then you went on right to school. Some people played hooky. I went right into school, though.
What was your mother's maiden name?
My mother's maiden name is Fabio.
Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about, you mentioned earlier, we talked a little bit earlier about her family history,
mm-hmm.
About her family's past,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and their roots or their
mm-hmm.
their occupational experience.
They came over from Sicily, and then they went to the island of Dominican Republic, where they were horse thieves. You better erase that. And then they moved to St. Croix, and then to the island of Manhattan. So she was here by age 14, I guess, or even younger. Yeah, because they moved pretty quick. I guess maybe opportunities weren't good. I don't know. But everybody spread out, though.
How did your father and mother hook up? How did they meet?
In New York, and then they.
In Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what was your father's background? Besides what you told us, he loved farming.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Was his family always involved since the 1800s in owning property?
Okay. Yeah. Right. That's the only thing I know. Yeah. They always had a farm.
What did your mom particularly love to do? What?
Oh, my mother loved to cook. Oh, Mamma Mia. In fact, when I was a little kid, I never liked to eat that much. And then she always used to tell me about all the starving people in China or in India. I used to wish I were there. Oh, she would put so much on my plate. I would go, "Is this for the month?" But she loved to cook. We ate like 4 meals a day, all meat every meal. And with the gravies and all this type of stuff. And so she liked canning. That's probably why she liked my father when he did all his, grocery and, growing stuff. because she likes canning. They even made wine. We had wine in the basement in Jamaica, but we didn't do that out here. But they made wine, and they said back in the 20s and 30s, they made even beer. I don't know. But she loved, cooking. But, cooking. When she got older, I never really learned how to cook. And so when I used to make something for her, she'll go, how come this is so dry? I said, believe it or not, people don't make gravy anymore. It's bad for you. But, everything had gravy. Everything was, I don't know. I couldn't cook like that if you paid me.
Were there other people besides your mother and father, that adults, that had a formative influence on your early life?
Besides my mother and father, maybe just family.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know your aunt certainly had.
Yeah, my aunts and uncles. Yeah. But when we were growing up, all your heroes were people in your family. Not like today. People like, the heroes are the rap people and the sports people and things like that. But when we grew up, it was always family members who were the most important people in your life. And they're the ones who, you learn from. They're the ones that you respected. You may not always agree, but, the ones you respected. But you really didn't look out, even when I watched television, back then, singers, they were good. Actors, they were good. But I didn't want to be like them. My main circle was, my family.
Those were the role models.
And those were your, role models, And those are people that, you trusted and they, wanted the best for you.
And therefore, your role models were many of them were in education. They were teachers, administrators. So when did you first know, or when did you decide that that's what I'm going to do?
Well, growing up, I really didn't have much of a choice of deciding. My parents, when I was like 3, first they put me in ballet. Then when I couldn't get my right from my left, then they put me in tap. Then after I didn't like that, then by 5, they put me in, started me on the piano. So I took piano for like 15 years. And then I was thinking about becoming a piano teacher, even though I didn't like piano that much. Because number one, I didn't like practicing. Because as soon as I was outside playing, here's my mom yelling out the window to come in to practice for an hour. So I really didn't like that, but I was going into education as a music major. But then I decided, my first class at Hofstra, the professor said, if you can't live and die for music, then you shouldn't be here. And I knew I couldn't live and die for music, so that ended that. So I decided to go into history. But I guess I wanted to go into teaching, I guess, because there were so many teachers. And I figured, that'd be a nice thing. Yeah.
What's the toughest decision you've ever had to make?
Toughest decision. Can we skip that? I can't think.
You're really doing an inventory.
Yeah.
A lot of tough decisions
yeah, I can't think of
them. Well, if you can't think of one in particular, maybe there was a tough decision.
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't remember right now.
Then how about this? What was the best time of your life?
Best time of my life? Every day. I like my life when I was young. I like my life when I was in college. I like my life when I was teaching. I like my life after teaching. So I don't know if you can say that any one time is a good life, or the best time of your life. If you had a good life and you didn't have a lot of sorrows like some children have, then every time is a good life. Everyone has their ups and downs.
Maybe we should say right today.
Right today? Right now? right now it's good
You know
too.
what? You can probably answer this one more easily. What was the best teacher? Who was the best teacher you ever had?
My best teachers, I would say, was when I was in Jamaica, Queens. I like my teachers there. And I think they were interested in students. And I don't know if I can say it was one particularly, but quite a few were very good, teachers. And they were very interesting.
Did you ever play?
I went back for my junior high reunion a couple of times. I went back to my high school reunion only once, but my junior high a couple of times.
Great.
Yeah, they were fun.
Do you remember ever playing games, either street games or board games or games with other kids?
Oh yeah.
What games did you play as a youngster?
As a youngster, let's see. We always played hopscotch and ball and riding bicycle. And then as I came out here, my friends, we did more cards and stuff. And I like Scrabble. I like winning.
It sounds like the games in the city were more physical.
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, that's because in the games in the city I was younger. And then as I 13, 14, then you changed to other games, But I never was a television watcher. Even today, I watch a tiny bit. Half the time I can't pay attention. But most of the time I like games and stuff like that.
University, your first paying job, very first paying job.
My first paying job was this job in college. I started to like to eat a little bit more. And so I went to this place that was like in the cafeteria. And it was supposed to be for the summer. And my parents said, "You're not going to last. You know how to cook." I said, "Oh, I know how to do this." So anyway, I went to this job and I worked in the cafeteria. So the first thing I said, "Oh, gee, well, this sounds like easy." Then we had to do something and get stuff ready for the break. Then after that, she said, "Can you do very quickly eggs and stuff?" I didn't know how to do that. Then people would come in, they would order salami, bologna. I was getting everything so confused because I wasn't used to cooking. I didn't cook at all.
It sounds like you were a short order cook.
Oh, who knows what that job was? I didn't last 5 days. And then one day she had knockwurst and sauerkraut for the people. So she said to me, we don't keep that because it gets bad. So I said, "Oh, okay, should I throw it out?" So I threw the whole thing out. And then she says, "Where's that knockwurst?" I said, "Didn't you say you don't keep it?" She said, "I just meant the sauerkraut." I said, "You want me to take it out the garbage?" So I think that was, and then I used to come home and every day I had mustard all over me. They said, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "This is the worst job." And my first job. And so then I went to Canada for a weekend. And when I came back, I found out I was fired. I said, "Gee whiz." That didn't last long for my first summer job.
How old were you then?
I started college when I was 16. 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you were that age and you weren't working, what would you have done after school? What were you interested in?
Well, I had to play the piano, and I was always into church and well, in the city it would be Girl Scouts out here.
Were you in choir?
I was in the choir, and when I went to school, I was always in plays and stuff like that.
Did you have favorite subjects and least favorite subjects?
Least favorite, gym. Oh God. And most favorite would be the, English, history, But physics was.
Right now, what's your favorite season of the year?
I love all the seasons. Yeah.
So you like living in this part of the country?
Yeah. The only thing is, when it snows too much, I don't know if I like that. But it's exciting to see the snow and stuff like that. I remember like when teaching, you say we're going to have a snowstorm. And so then everybody, you get all excited, and then you look out the window, oh, day off from school, you look out, snow hasn't started. You're looking out before you know it's 5 o'clock, no snow, and it's time to get ready to go to school. I said, gee, why don't they tell the weather a little bit better? Gosh.
Well, that still seems to be a problem, even today.
I know.
They say that aromas can trigger memories. Is there a particular aroma that means family to you? It translates into a sense of, or memories of family.
Since I grew up with a mom that loved to cook, I don't know what aroma would be. All aromas. Food.
Yeah. Now you mentioned you went to school in Huntington High School, and you mentioned Hofstra. Is that where you did your undergraduate work?
And I did my undergraduate and graduate work at Hofstra.
And the degrees that you ended up with were?
A BA, MA, and then I did in-service credit.
And a BA and an MA, what was your master's in education?
In counseling.
In counseling? Okay. Was there a particular happiest day of your young life as a child? Was there one day that you could say, oh, I can remember such and such that happened. I was really happy on that day. Or is there nothing that pops up? I don't want to give you a problem choosing all the 15 best things that happened. I just wondered if you had one memory associated either with the happiest day or the worst day of your young life.
The happiest or the worst day?
You seem to be a person who simply enjoys life, period.
Yeah, I do.
Take it all as it comes.
Yeah, that's true.
What year did you arrive in Brentwood? When did you come?
1967.
Why did you come to Brentwood?
I don't know. I guess because I had a large minority population. I said, well, I feel like living in Queens. I think I'll take that one.
Okay.
And I like Brentwood. I remember a lot of teachers when I first started. It's a pretty tough school district.
Before you talk about that, had you looked for work anywhere else, or did you just decide, no, Brentwood, that's for me. That's what
I didn't apply to too many places, just Brentwood and maybe 2 other school districts. And back in '67, social studies teachers were a dime a dozen, and English teachers. So it was very difficult getting a job. But of course, you don't know that until you go out for your interview.
So
and then
contacted Brentwood to? Who'd you talk to?
Oh, I talked to this nice guy named Mr. Maroka. And Mr. Maroka was really funny. I sat down for my interview, and he said to me, we went over discipline methods. What would you do if a child did this? And what would you do if a child did that? And what would you do if a child did the other? And so I told him what I would do. And then he said, there are a lot of applications for social studies teachers. And he said, can you speak Spanish? I said, not really good. He said, well, we have a large Spanish population. I said, yeah, I guess so. I didn't even know. And so then he said, well, I really can't offer you a job in history, but I can offer you a job in math. I said, well, I don't want math. I said, that's okay. I won't take the job because you can't offer me a job in history. I said, because history I like, and I would know how to teach history. But if I taught math, I wouldn't know how to make it interesting because that's just not my forte to make math that interesting. So he says, well, I'm sorry, but I'd like to hire you. He said, you sure? I said, I'm positive. I said, well, if anything happens in history, you just let me know. But that math job you want to give me, forget it. So I went home and I said, well, I didn't get that job. And then a day later came a contract for history. I said, gee, did that man know what he was talking about? I said, he just told me, I believe everything people tell me. I said, he just told me that there was no jobs in history, only math. And here he gives me a contract for history. I said, oh, maybe that was one of his interview methods. I never even thought about it. I just thought I was just being honest. Maybe that's the way he, it's one of the things that he, said just to see if you would take any job. But that didn't even dawn on me until about 5 years later. And I looked back and I said, oh, maybe that's what, a little thing that he did. But Mr. Maroka hired me, but I never really worked under him. Only for a couple of months, because then he went up to the high school. And then, and that was the end of that. I remember when he first went up, a lot of teachers were complaining that we need a principal here every day. And he was, training up, at the high school. And I said, why do they keep asking about a principal? If you go in and do what you're supposed to do in the classroom, you don't need a principal. Why do you need a principal? But since that was my first year, I kept my mouth shut.
What was your impression of Brentwood at that point when you arrived and you started to work, and the people you worked with?
Well, my first day, I never forget, Mr. Maroka, he made a comment. And, when you first start teaching, you listen to, everything the principal tells you. So he had a faculty meeting. And I was so happy to start. I didn't know what to do. So he said, one of the things, he said, your first day, the kids will respect you because you're a teacher. I said, oh, that's good. And he said, after that first day, you're on your own. I said, oh, my God, I only have one day. So anyway, the first day I went to the window and I saw the kids, and they were pretty well behaved. And then my first day, I gave them a list of rules that I used for the last 34 years, the same rules. There was like 10 or 11. And what happened, I got a reputation as one of the strictest teachers. They call me the Wicked Witch of the North. And some of the teachers, during Halloween, they would celebrate my birthday. I never forget my first year. The kids were telling they asked me, said, how many years have you been teaching? And I didn't want to tell them, my first year. So I said, oh, what do you think? They said, 30 years, 40 years. Lord, I ran down to the bathroom, 30, 40, I wasn't even 22. So anyway, what happened, they asked his other teachers, and the teacher told them my age. I go, oh, why do teachers do that? And they said, she's that mean already? So that was my first year experience. I really liked teaching. And I didn't really find it that tough, except for this one class, because when I first started teaching, we had honors, A, B, C, and D. Now they have them all mixed in. But all the classes were easy except for this 1D group, because it was so hard to try to keep their attention. And I really never knew what level, the level that they were on, I mean, I knew, but it was hard to teach that level. And I came home, I said, gee, teaching is easy, except for that 1D group. I said, they make me earn my money, but otherwise, it's a shame to even take the money. It's so much fun.
Yes. Who were some of the people you worked with that first year or second year?
My first and second year, there was Rosenblatt, and Joan Lang. I think she changed names, but they were like 5 or 6 years experience by the time I got there. And Judy Odishu, and let's see, Jerry Cohen. No, not Jerry Cohen. Barry Cohen, who died.
Well, unfortunately, John Maroka passed away too when he went up to the high school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What assignments? What grades have you taught? What subjects and so on?
I taught 7th and 8th. In the beginning, it was all 8th, and then by the second year, they gave me the honors class and A, B, C, and D. but it was nice because I got the honors class, and it was only like my second year teaching. So that and that was good.
Showed a lot of confidence in you.
Yeah, and one of the things I really liked the slower kids because they were more loving, and the brighter kids I liked too, but they weren't as loving as the slower ones. And I never forget one day I walked into one of the teachers' classrooms to get something, and my honors kids were there from the previous year, and they actually stood up and gave me a standing ovation. I said, "Gee whiz, I didn't know they even liked me," because the other ones they were different. They were more loving. I never forget this D group that I had the first year. The last day they hugged me, and I said, "Gee whiz." And I said I never had a good thing to say about them, only because I felt like I never reached their need, you know. And I said, "Gee, how loving!" and made me change my whole idea. And one day I had a cold. My couple of years, gosh, I caught colds, unreal. And the study hall class had a lot of the kids in it that was in the slow class, and they brought cough drops for me. And someone said, "You giving Miss Wharton cough drops?" And they said, "Yeah, she can't afford it in her salary." Isn't that cute? That was really nice.
Were there any programs or activities that you got involved with that you enjoyed doing?
I did National Honor Society. That was started by Bob Rosenblatt. I got involved in. I used to travel with we had a travel club, and I used to travel with the travel club. We went to Washington and Washington, D.C., and a couple other places. But February, we used to take trips to Washington, D.C. on that week off. You know, we would go there. And
are they still going, those programs, or you don't know?
National Honor Society is still going. Travel club, yeah, a little bit differently though. Some of those trips they don't take because it's so expensive, you know.
Now, as a teacher and an employee of the district, you had a job description.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond the job description, you also had a purpose for coming to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put that into words? Tell us what your purpose was.
My purpose, was to make the best out of the students so that they can get the best education so they can live a happy life. And in the beginning, near the end, sometimes when I got colds, I couldn't make it as good. But in the beginning, I would come to school no matter how sick I was for like 15, 20 years. I could be half dying, and I would still, you know, get there. In fact, one time, the assistant principal made me go home. I was so sick. But, you know, I used to go in all the time.
Teaching has been described as working in a petri dish because whatever the kids have, they bring to school.
Mm-hmm.
Many parents who couldn't stay home with them would send them to school.
Mm-hmm.
They'd come into your class, and whatever bugs were around, you ultimately would pick up.
Yeah.
And I guess working on 4 hours sleep a night for a lot of teachers, their immune systems gets compromised. So you're constantly fighting one thing or another.
Yeah, colds mainly.
Cold.
All the time.
Did you have at any point contact with some of your own former teachers? Did you have a friendship or a contact with people who taught you?
Only when we had a reunion, when I went to junior high, because remember I moved.
Yes.
And when I went back, and some of the teachers said they remembered me, and I think they were telling stories though. But they said, "Oh yeah, I remembered you." But it was nice to see, you know, my junior high school teachers. It was, you know, nice reunions. We haven't had one in a long time.
Do you ever run into any of your own former students in town or They don't go up to the Huntington way, so I'm just wondering whether they.
Sometimes they do. Once in a while, yeah. And they always, a couple of times they'll say, "Oh yeah, we were talking about you a couple of months ago," and they always said I always used to point with the finger, and they said, "Do you still do that?" I said, "No." Or they will say something that happened, and well, I met a few of them even when I went to Rite Aid in Brentwood once in a while, and it's nice to hear, they're going to school, and it's great.
Now you belonged to BTA while you were teaching, right? Mm-hmm. Were you ever active in the organization?
I used to be a union rep.
You were?
Uh-huh.
For your building?
For my building.
Okay.
Yeah.
What buildings did you work in?
I only worked in one.
Really?
North Middle. All my life. I went there in 1967 and I retired in 2001, and that's the only building, that I've been in.
Were there ever any times when you were super involved because of what was happening within the district or within the union that you were, in other words, was there a time when you were more involved than at other times?
As far as union stuff?
As far as the union stuff.
Yeah, a couple of teachers you had to go in with, if something happened.
Okay. To be supportive of individual teachers.
Mm-hmm. When I first went to Brentwood, we were on full session.
Yes.
And then about 2 or 3 years later, we were on split session. And then I still stayed at North. I had the morning session because I taught 8th grade. And then 7th grade was taught in the afternoon. 8th grade, 8th grade. And then 7th was taught in the afternoon. But then there was a 7th grade center. I can't quite remember how that worked. Because one time they had a 7th grade center, just like they have a 9th grade center now. And then, I can't quite remember how that worked now.
Okay.
But we did have a morning session and an afternoon session. 8th graders, I think, were in the morning. 7th graders were in the afternoon.
There was a 9th grade?
And there was a 9th grade, okay. But I never taught 9th grade. So maybe 9th, 8th grade was in the morning, maybe 9th grade was in the afternoon. And then they had the 7th grade building. And then that changed. And then we went to full time. I can't quite remember now.
If I say these two words, unforgettable character, and you look back over the teachers and the people that you worked with, is there anybody whose face pops into your mind? Or anybody whose shenanigans you remember?
Let me see. Unforgettable. Let me see. We had a couple of teachers who always like to do prank jokes and tell jokes all the time. And that was, funny. And I guess a lot of them used to make fun of me because I was kind of naive.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. I always would say something and they would go, "Did you hear what you just said?" And I go, "What?" One time I went into the faculty room and I was so sick. I had a sore throat. And I don't know if I should put this on the air, but I said to them, I said, "Oh gosh, any of you fellas got something that I can suck on?" and I was so sick with a sore throat, everybody was laughing. And I didn't understand the joke. And I said, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "I can hardly talk." And then a little bit later, I got it. But I was so sick, I wasn't even thinking about anything naughty.
Now I understand. Now, what was the date of your retirement?
2001.
Okay, that was the year. Fall, or was it mid-year?
June.
It was, in June, right? Mm-hmm. June. That's what I meant to say. Okay. If you survey all of the years, what was the total number of years that you were active in teachers?
34.
34 years. Wow.
4 years.
Was there some professional accomplishment, specific accomplishment that you were more proud of than anything else? Or No, I guess you kind of saw your entire investment in teaching as a whole rather than individually. Your last building assignment was the same.
North Middle.
North Middle, same as it was in the beginning.
Same as the beginning. And in fact, some people, they went from building to building to building. And I said, geez, that's good. You get to, meet a lot of people. But I only stayed in one. Most of the time that I didn't meet people was when I was in the union and we used to meet over in South Middle. Then I got to meet other people from other buildings. But otherwise, if you didn't pass through North, I didn't meet too many people. But some people had to travel, so, a lot of them didn't like traveling from building to building. But, no, I always stayed and never traveled, just that one building.
Do you remember what your annual salary was the first year you accepted the contract?
I think it was $5,600 or something like that. I can't quite remember. I remember showing my paycheck to one of the teachers who was there, I guess at that time maybe 10 years, and they were laughing at the salary because they were making so much better, But wasn't bad, Oh, maybe it was maybe 62, 56, 62, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
But it wasn't too bad.
Why did you decide to retire when you did?
Well, I thought 33, 34 years was enough. And my mom,
why did you
why'd you think
it was enough?
And my mom, she taught like 30 some years.
I see.
And she never retired. She got sick. And I said, I don't know. Maybe that gene will run into me. I said, I better retire and have fun. 33, 34 years is, long time.
You had things you wanted to do.
Oh, yeah. Then you pass on and do other things. This summer was really exciting. I went to Hawaii for 2 weeks, went to Virginia, New Jersey. We went to a couple of plays in the city. In fact, I saw Lion King last night, and we saw. I like to travel. Yeah.
Have you done any other traveling since you retired?
Oh, I used to travel even when I was working. But it's nice because now you don't have to always, have a, deadline. Yes. My first year, we went to Louisiana in 2001, and I came back September the 8th. I said, gee, this is odd. I can actually come back in September,
It's a wonderful feeling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Have you had as many colds now as you used to get?
Oh, last year I got a flu shot and a pneumonia shot. And I was sick from October to May. I said, gee, but that's the first time I've been sick like that for a long time. But it must have been the flu shot. But
it did make a difference, though. You find your...
I don't know. Then there were years that I taught that I wasn't. Yeah.
Okay. Are you a night person or a morning person?
Both.
Really?
Yeah, because I only need like 4 hours sleep. And
even now?
Oh, yeah. I get up every morning and I walk in the mall. And I walk about 6:37. And we have this little group, and we say, where were you Tuesday? Where were you Monday? And we walk in the mall. And so then I finish up maybe like 8:30. But I get up, early.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, certainly that's good for your health to.
I don't know. I'm trying to lose weight. I started gaining weight because when I first started teaching, I weighed like 90 some pounds, maybe 110 the most. And then about 96, I started gaining weight, and I always liked to eat it. But now she can't eat too much. But I walk. It's good for you.
I think Americans as a whole are losing that battle.
Oh, I don't know why.
Anything we can do is a good idea. I want to ask you something about teaching and about the profession.
Mm-hmm.
What was the most fun for you during your teaching year? What did you get the most pleasure out of?
I guess being a part of the educational system and always trying to do your best. I remember the kids used to say, how come you never give us a free day? I said, free day? I get paid today. How can we have a free day? They go, so-and-so gives us a free day. What? No free day. And I think when they come back with little stories when you see them, which is, nice. And always hoping, at least, that you do the best that you can every day.
Yeah. You did that.
I try to.
If you could do it all over again, is there something that you would want to do differently?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. My last couple of years, they gave me, what was the name of that title? I had a job, and it was to check up on students whose attendance was bad. I forgot the title. And so that was like my duty period for two periods.
Who did you on that?
Millie in the office. She was the secretary.
Okay.
And what happened, it's under Grace DeRiggi. She's like the head of it.
Yes, okay.
And what happens, you call up to see why so-and-so didn't come to school. And it made me change, because in the beginning, I was very strict, and I looked at academics the most important. And then with that job, it made me look at some of the problems the kids have. Because, when you teach, you can't always get in everybody's problems, because then teaching becomes secondary and everybody's problems becomes first. And not everyone in the class needs a psychiatrist. So, you always have to stick to the academics. But it let me become a little bit nicer, I guess. And because I said, geez, some of these kids really have a lot of problems, that you don't want to get to when you're teaching, because you don't want to get into people's business. You don't have time. And I guess working with certain students, I didn't want to work with the ones that I had personally in my classroom, because they might feel funny that you know so many things about them. But working closely with those that I did not have. And for the first time, I looked at some of the parents, because you always think parents want the best for their children. And then in this job, I found out that sometimes that's really not really true. And parents made up stories. This person was sick because of an eye thing. This person is sick because of a knee thing. I said, gee whiz, he should be dead by now. Yeah, so many, and it was just because they couldn't, control the kids, and they just made up stories. And I said, gee whiz, because if I didn't have that job, I wouldn't have seen that aspect of a lot of their lives.
I bet you appreciated your upbringing and your own family experience when you saw what some other kids had.
Yeah, that's true. And then with that, we gave a job to certain students to work in the office, and they got paid. They had to be 14 though, and a few of them, we took out to dinner, but it kind of changed my outlook in a lot of things.
Now, you taught during a very dynamic period in the history of this country. There were a lot of historical things, a lot of history occurred. In those 30 some odd years. Was there an event that you remember that happened while you were teaching and can tell us how it affected you?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I didn't quite have tenure yet, and Martin Luther King was assassinated, and a group of us got together to try to make it a legal holiday, because it wasn't a state holiday or anything like that, or federal. So we tried to get it off for the school district, and I remember that.
Yes,
that was really
great.
That was great.
What are you going to miss most, or what have you already missed most about not going
teaching?
To it? Yeah.
What have I missed most? One thing, once you're a teacher, and church, they have me teaching Sunday school. Last week, that I just came back from Virginia. Here, on my phone is a message. We can't get anyone for Vacation Bible School. I said, my goodness. So I did that. But it's amazing. You always wind up teaching or doing something in the teaching field. What do I miss the most? I can't really say teaching because
you're still doing that.
Yeah, but you know one thing, there comes a point, when you get a certain age, you just have to say, that's going back and trying to teach like you did when you were 25 is, it's over. So it's not really teaching. I guess maybe some of the kids, or and the teachers that I mean, they still invite me to the Christmas party. So I go to North's Christmas parties. I go to the end of the year party. And that's nice because there are a few that I still know and probably will stop when everybody goes and nobody knows me anymore. But it's nice that they always include me. So I can't even say I miss friendships because I keep, up with that friend,
Is there anything that you would like to have accomplished before you left that you didn't have time or you couldn't quite get done in time? Or do you feel like you did whatever you could and that was the end of that?
Something I would like to have accomplished? Maybe go into guidance. Yeah. I know a couple of times I went for a couple of interviews and they said to me, would you miss teaching? And tell me at the interview said, yes. That's probably why I never got the job. I said, because I always went in not really wanting to be a guidance counselor because I never wanted to leave the classroom. It was the weirdest thing. Yeah. But I said, gee, I have this degree, but I never really wanted to do it. I don't know why I even went on the 2 interviews that I did. But maybe if I look back, maybe I should have pursued that,
Okay. All right. But it sounds like you did a lot of that work in your classroom with students.
Oh, no, not really. I really never.
Well, no, what I'm talking about is near the end where you said you became a lot more sensitive.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Needs. Yeah. But I tried never to, because I had to meet with them once a week. That was part of the job description. But with my students, I had Grace meet with them because, a lot of times you don't like to listen to your personal students' business, but the other ones. And some of them really, started to look to me as a friend. I said, gee whiz, this is a new role.
Hey, if there are 3 things you could wave a magic wand and make happen in the Brentwood School District for the kids and for the parents of those kids, what 3 things would you like to see happen?
Smaller classrooms.
Yes.
More money.
Yes. To
make it equal to richer districts and more parent involvement.
Excellent. Yes. For the new teachers, new counselors, new young administrators coming in who are working with Brentwood youth, is there anything from your experience that you can offer by word of advice to them that they ought to know and that you got it through all of your many years of experience and you could pass it on? They may not pay attention to any of us when we offer this advice, but what could you advise young people?
I don't know. One thing I see about the schools, discipline is not like it really should be. But I guess it's like a society thing. It's nothing to do with Brentwood so much. But I think it affects some school districts more than the others, But I think tightening up the ship is.
But you're saying you think that the culture has had a lot to do with the environment, even in the schools.
Yeah. But in a big district like that, where a lot of parents work, you see it more than in some other districts. But a lot of people tell me, even in their districts, discipline. And I don't think the new teachers, their ideas about discipline and a lot of things are different too.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Different in what way?
Not as strict.
Oh, okay.
Let a lot of things go. They shouldn't go.
This is like a completion test. Only two sentences here. I'm going to ask you to fill in the word. Mm-hmm. Brentwood students are
smart, nice, pleasant to be with.
Brentwood teachers are
gifted.
What was your favorite year?
Oh, my favorite year? I don't know. Teaching in the classroom? I don't know if it's a favorite year. Maybe my first, because it always stands out. And I guess I was lucky to get a job. I can thank Miss Maroka. I can thank my dumb interview. I don't want that job. Forget it. If that's all you're going to offer me. And I think I even told him, I said, gee, you wasted my time. I think I even said that. I didn't know much. But maybe your first year, because you always remember that year.
How would you then like to be remembered by your former students when they go to their reunions years from now and they talk about you? How would you like them to remember you?
Well, that's a hard question. After I retired, I went to one of the secretaries gave a party, a decoration party where you buy flowers and whatnot. And one of my students, she was not much younger than I was there. And they recognized me and remembered how strict I was. What I would like them to remember, that my strictness wasn't because I disliked them. It was because that's how the most learning could take place. Because if you're not strict, the kids will rule you. In fact, one student said to me one day, that you're the only teacher that I know who gives the kids headaches. He said, most of the kids give the teachers headaches. I said, And I think about my third or fourth year, one student, his mother brought him a T-shirt. And on the T-shirt, she had, I survived Wharton. And a couple of the teachers walked that student all around the room, all around the school building, because it was a big joke. Of course, I didn't think it was a big joke. But way deep down, I really didn't.
What haven't we talked about? What did we forget to mention?
I don't know.
Is there anything that you want to say to anyone in your family or to no one in particular? You'd just like to say it before we conclude?
Treasure every day. Put God in your life.
I want to thank you on behalf of all of us in R.O.B.S for giving us this hour. You are
already?
You are a delight. Thank you, Mercedes.
Oh, thank you. He says that to all the people.